Good afternoon. Thank you so much for inviting me to share some experiences with you and encourage you to, even though we're in the middle of busy careers, find a way to give back. But it's a little different from the way that Sanjay or Jeffrey were talking about. Mentoring, especially young people, can take someone who has a dream that's buried in their heart and help breathe life into it. So many young people today do not have someone who's willing to invest in them and say, I see something in you, and I think you could become somebody great. But I think each one of us in this room have the ability to do exactly that thing and change somebody's life. And so I want to tell you a story that I think will help illustrate just how much impact you can have with just a few minutes. Not that much of an investment on your part that can change a life. There was a young girl who loved to read. Her favorite authors, could just not keep up with her voracious appetite for books. It got so bad that when she walked into her local bookstore, they would shove the magazines at her and say, look at the catalogs yourself. You can figure out when the next book is coming out. And so in the process of that, she started thinking, well, maybe I can write. And so as a 14-year-old, she started writing to the authors that she loved to read. And many of those authors wrote her back. People like Madeline L'Engle, Jeanette Oak, Frank Peretti, they wrote back to her. And a couple of them she would write back again, and in some of those letters, she included short stories. One author in particular commented on those short stories, encouraged her dream, and mailed them back to her. Then life intervened. We've all been there. She started college, she met a boy, she worked lots of different jobs, graduated, married that boy, turned into a man, and life kind of meandered along. It was all good, but it was different. But one thing that never died was that dream. Every once in a while, those embers of a dream would spark back to life. And she'd pull it out again and wonder, is now the time? Is this something that I'm supposed to do? Years continued to pass, and then one day she was at a book signing with 3 authors. Now one of those authors was as extroverted as she is, and they started talking. But it took her husband coming up to that author and saying, has she told you she wants to write? For that author to then become a second mentor in her life. That young woman took that opportunity and said, I'm going to test this dream now. She decided she was going to write 500 words a night for a year because someone had told her that if you write 500 words a night for a year, at the end of that year, you will have a book. She wrote, she edited, she went to the write conferences, and 15 months after starting to write, she got a contract for her first book. Last weekend, I started writing my 21st book. That dream may have never come to life, except for as a 14-year-old, someone I never met poured into me and encouraged me from a distance. Imagine the impact you can have with the people right around you. I think if all of us took a couple minutes, we could think of 1, 2, or maybe even 3 people that are in our sphere of influence who don't have people who believe in them. And you pouring just a little bit of time into them. Take them to coffee. Go meet them at something that matters to them. Encourage them in their dream. And you too could be able to impact their life. One of the great joys of my life was being able to send a copy of my first book to that author who 20 years earlier had encouraged me to keep writing. So I challenge you, pick one person and encourage them in their dream. And in 20 years, you may see the impact that you too have had. Thank you. I forgot all about the slides.